Shalom Israel. This is the ISUPK Wednesday law class. Also remember, check out Commanding General Yohanna's radio show, which is Monday, 2 a.m. UK time, even though our clocks go forward this Sunday. Check out the radio shows. There's one Monday, one Saturday. Check out the classes we have out here in the UK, also in the States. There's tons of classes for you to choose from. So we have classes live Monday, history class, Wednesday, the law class, Thursday, the scripture breakdown class, and on the online classes, Tuesday, the brotherhood class, Friday, the Lashon Kodash Hebrew class, and Friday, we have the radio show on the ends. Hold on, let me turn. Okay. Dropped out. So check out all of those classes. Today we're going to go into a few books. We're going to go into a few books. We're going to go over some oppression, reparations, Belize, the rest of the Caribbean, and Great Britain's colonies. Because now William and Kate obviously go on a tour for the Queen's Jubilee. And the places that they're trying to go is the Caribbean, and the people of that who live on that land is saying they're not welcome. And it's so right of them to say that they're not welcome, man. It's so right of them to say that they're not welcome. Usually we welcome everybody with open arms. And this oppression that we're going through is making us realize we can't welcome everybody with open arms, man. Hey, Shalom, Shabbat Kafar. So we've done realized we can't welcome everybody with open arms, because now we're seeing history repeat itself, whereas a people we've welcomed with open arms ends up harming us. So these people don't want to take no chances, man. And they're saying, yo, you're not welcome. They're meant to do their next visit to Jamaica sometime this week or next week or whenever, because they're on a tour. They're on a nice private jet with their 20 people entourage. They got their 20 people entourage and they're living life. And they're visiting the Caribbean for the Queen's Jubilee, which is a slap in the face. What they're doing is they're visiting all the lands which they colonized, man. And they're coming, we're coming to visit to give you greetings and whatnot. When really they're just coming to let you know, we conquered you, man. And we rule over you. And you beneath us. They're coming for that purpose. So like Ariella, get me Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7. Also, any questions?
The book of Deuteronomy.
And we'll get to them. So like you say that again.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old.
So remember the days of old.
Consider the years.
Like we need to remember the days of old.
Asking thy father.
See, we need to remember the days of old. We need to remember the past. That's what we need to remember. Because if you don't know the past, then you don't know what's going to happen in the future. We should remember the past of how these people abused us, of how they slaughtered us, of how they harm and kill us. We should remember that. And then what would that do? Make us not love them in the future, man. Make us stay away from them. Make us understand, you know what, there's a divide. There should be a divide between us and them. There should be a gulf in the middle between black people and white people, man. There should be a gulf in the middle to keep us separate. We would understand that. Why? Because when they cross over to our side, what do they do? They come and kill us, man. When we cross over to their side and try and join them, they still kill us. It's always us getting killed no matter where we go. We try to flee from them, they harm us. We try to fight back, they harm us. They kill us every chance they get. And if we remember the things which happened to blacks and Hispanics in the past, then that will change how we think in the future. That will change how we see them. That will change from us welcoming them and caring about the Queen having I can't remember what Jubilee is, a Diamond Jubilee, which has been on the throne for like what, 50 years, probably longer, something like that. She's been on the throne for like 50 something. No, she's been on the throne longer than that, I believe. About 70 years, 80 years. She's been on the throne that long, man. About 60 years, I think it is. So now they're getting ready to celebrate, and now they're on tour. Why? Because in June is it's gonna be, I believe, a Diamond Jubilee, where the whole world's gonna worship her, and they're gonna have barbecues and parties and all of those kind of things. Now for black people, it's just a 4-day bank holiday. It's good for us, just a 4-day bank holiday. But other than that, we couldn't care less. So we're going to read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. And we need to consider the years of many generations, man. Many generations have been and gone. And many generations will have the same story about this oppressor, that the violent, that the kill, that we should stay away from them. So now we're going to go on. 1 second, I'm just going to quickly pull this article. Let me pull this article. 1 second. All right, so let me just share this. Let me share my screen. So this says William and Kate, protesters demand apology and reparations for Britain's slaving past as royal couple arrives in Jamaica. So now, imagine this. These two Edomites arrive in Jamaica, and we know them as the royal couple. Meanwhile, in actual reality, them Jamaicans is the royal people, man. And these Edomites ain't royal, but because they've conquered us and rule over us, they're known as a royal couple. So they arrive in Jamaica. It says the Caribbean nation is hosting the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge for 2 days. However, the plans have angered some who say they are still waiting for an apology and slavery reparations. The thing is this, man. They ain't going to give you no reparations. And the reparations that they do give you don't amount to what they've done to you, man. It don't amount to how much you would be rightfully owed. It don't amount to how much they've murdered you, how much they've raped and killed you. It don't amount to none of that, man. No amount of money amounts to the crimes that they've done to you. Them giving us reparations would even be a slap in the face. You slaughtered us and killed us and threw us off slave ships. Reparations, giving us money, doesn't okay that. And guess what? They don't even want to give you the money. But even if they did give you the money, it don't okay that, man. Our ancestors is in a place where these British pounds don't mean nothing, man. They're in a place where money don't mean nothing. Because they were slaughtered and killed. What means something is justice from God, man. That's what means something. Not this man's money. Hold on 1 second. Let me add Ariel to it. So what means something is justice from God and not this man's money. These are talking about reparations, which I understand black people want reparations, and this man ain't going to give you reparations because every time you ask about them, what does he do? Turns a blind eye, and he says we should move on from the past. That's what David Cameron said maybe 5-6 years ago, that we should move on from the past and stop talking about slavery, because he wanted to come there and talk about the 25 million pound prison that he built in the Caribbean. He didn't want to talk about reparations. He could have gave black people that money to say, you know what, use it as selling drugs, just take this 25 million and set up some businesses. He didn't want to do that. But what he did want to do is build a prison, and people that he kicks out of England, he sends them to finish their sentence in a Jamaican prison. He don't even want them in a British jail. He thinks we ain't even good enough for a British jail. That he'll rather deport you and send you to a Jamaican jail. But let's read on. The Caribbean nation is hosting the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge for 2 days. However, the plans have angered some. And it should anger you, man, as a black man, knowing these people that brought you to this land, enslaved you, got rich off you, made all this money off you, and then they left the island and left you on the island, man. Imagine that. They left the island and left you on the island. They didn't even bring you back to where they captured you from. They just left you on the island, man. They said, all right, we're gone now. Yeah, we've made enough money. We've abolished slavery. Yep, we're gone now. And they went with all the sugar, all the money, all the coffee, all the cotton, and you was just left there with nothing. You was left there with nothing, just watching them leave on a boat, thinking, all right, so what about me? No one cares about us, man. Let's read on. Says the Caribbean nation is hosting the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge for 2 days. However, the plans have angered some who say they are still waiting for an apology and slavery reparations. And this says, has 60 reasons, go back home. Hold on, let me see if I can play it.
Prince William, I hope you feel ashamed in some sense. I hope you feel remorse. I hope you feel, how could my ancestors do this?
They represent a certain kind of history that is unpleasant for our people.
Hold on, let's go back to that part again.
How could my ancestors do this? Some sense. I hope you feel remorse. Prince William, I hope you feel ashamed in some sense. I hope you feel remorse. I hope you feel, how could my ancestors do this?
They represent a certain kind of history that is unpleasant for our people.
And listen, man, what that brother said was so right. He said they represent a certain type of history which is unpleasant for our people. And what he said there was so right, man. The rest of our people just need to wake up and see this. The rest of our people need to wake up and understand how they treat us is unpleasant. How they deal with us is unpleasant. Us as a nation need to wake up, man. And this brother right here, he's finally seeing them for what they are. This sister right here, man, she hopes to feel some remorse. Listen, man, there's no point hoping for a white man to feel remorse. They don't have no remorse. There's no such thing as remorse when it comes to them. They don't have a heart and a caring bone in their body. I mean, showing them the atrocities that they've done to you, they don't care. What they say is, you need to move on from slavery. Why? Because they don't have no remorse. They don't have no empathy, no sympathy. They're not nurturing. They're not caring. They don't care. They just see it as, listen, man, just get over it. That's in the past. Get over it, man. They look at it like, yeah, we had you picking cotton. You're not picking cotton no more. What are you moaning about? That's all they see. They see it as, well, you're not picking cotton no more. It could be worse. What are you moaning about? They don't see the trauma that it leaves, and they don't see, you know, how it affects us till this day. How everyone else got paid except us. So let's scroll down in this article. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have been accused of benefiting from the blood, tears, and sweat of slaves as they arrived in Jamaica to be met by a protest calling for reparations from the British men. And that's so true, man. They did get paid off the blood, tears, and sweat. Do you know how hot it is in Jamaica, man? You're working in the sugar mills and all of them things. You're working on all these fields, man. That's you sweating, man. You running away and them whipping you and cutting off your legs and killing you, man. And some people would lose fingers in some of the factory machines, man. In some of the stuff they was doing when they was cutting certain things, they'd end up chopping a finger off or something. That's blood right there, man. And the tears, man. Seeing your loved one sold to another plantation, and you feeling physically sick, like you can't do no more, and you're being whipped until your back's ripped open, man. That's the tears, man. Listen, they did benefit of our blood, sweat, and tears, and our blood, sweat, and tears to them was just, you know, Well, we need this cotton, so this is how it has to be. We need the sugar cane, so this is how it has to be. We need this coffee, so this is how it has to be. So to them, it was just business, man. Meanwhile, in this business, we got the worst part of this business, man. We was out there on the cotton field. We was out there working in the sugarcane fields. We was out there being separated from our loved ones and our children, being whipped and killed, while they was, drinking rum and having fun and living in a nice house and living good and benefiting off our blood, sweat, and tears, man. Like what they said in this article. Let's read that again. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have been accused of benefiting from the blood, tears, and sweat of slaves as they arrived in Jamaica to be met by a protest calling for reparations from the British monarchy. And this is so right, man. They should be met with that. They should be met with protesters, because now black people are finally starting to see, you know what, this white man for what he is. We're starting to see them for what they are. We're starting to, once upon a time we thought, you know what, they are loving, they're kind. Now we're starting to see them for what they are, man.
That's
It
right.
starts with us seeing the royal family for what they are, and then we can see the rest of them for what they are, because they're all the same, man. William and Kate, all these rich royal family is silent when it comes to slavery, man. It's silent when it comes to Black Lives Matter, but when it comes to Ukraine, they all got a lot to say, man. When it comes to other countries, they have a lot to say, but you asking for reparations, you can't get them, man. And it's so right that they don't welcome the monarchy, man. They don't deserve to be welcomed. Everywhere they go, people should look at them like you shouldn't be here. Everywhere they go, people should look at them like you shouldn't be here, man. And when they ask why, you give them the facts. You give them the history and the facts. You give them the history from old of how they treated us, man. Let's read on. William and Kate celebrate the culture and history of the island, where there have been calls from politicians in recent years for Jamaica to drop the Queen as head of state and become a republic, and for a formal knowledge of slavery. And they want to drop the Queen from being head of state, meaning they want to put their own leader in place. They're tired of being ruled over by the Queen, man. I think it was Barbados that dropped the Queen as head of state not too long ago. And they dropped her as head of state as well. Why? Black people are finally realizing that white people don't benefit us, man. That they do nothing for us. They don't benefit us. And black people are finally realizing that. And these black people doing this, they ain't even in the truth, and they know this, which shows that black people is waking up bit by bit, man. Slowly but surely, we all gonna wake up, man. Even if we don't agree with each other, one thing we will agree is that the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of, man. That's one thing we will agree on. And they're seeing this because they've been asking for reparations for years, and they ain't had a penny, man. They've been asking for an apology for years. They ain't had an apology. William thinks, I don't need to apologize because I didn't enslave nobody. Listen, man. We understand that you're the son of the slave master, man. And I'm the son of the slave. And rightfully so, they should apologize, man. And that position is still in place today. He's still the son of a slave master, and I'm still the son of a slave. And it shows by our lifestyles that I live a slave lifestyle, and he lives a slave master lifestyle, meaning they don't need to work. They're rich. They got all the money in the world. Meanwhile, we poor, man. We poor.
That's
can barely afford petrol and diesel with how the prices has gone up, man. We can't afford to pay nothing, man. Meanwhile, Prince William can take a private jet to Jamaica. Hold on, give me 1 second. Meanwhile, Prince William can take a private jet to Jamaica, man, with an entourage of 20 people, and they can do a tour around the Caribbean. People in the Caribbean are so poor that they can't travel from one city to the next city, man. That's how poor we are. It shows the different kinds of lifestyles that we live. It says William and Kate will celebrate the culture. They're going to celebrate the culture. This is the thing, man. Everybody loves robbing us, but then loves our culture. William and Kate is so righteous that they're not allowed in Jamaica, man. And to see British people talking, saying William and Kate should be allowed to go wherever they want. No, they shouldn't, man. Because they're the son of the slave master. And it's only right that there's a marker on them, man. It's only right.
That's right.
It's only right that there's a mark on them. So everywhere you see them, you know, I should stay away from this, man. And guess what? The Lord put a mark on them, man. The Lord put a mark on them. So we know them and say, all right, we should stay away from this man. We should stay away from this man because this man is the man of sin. This man is evil and wicked, man. All right, let's read on. Anti-colonial sentiment has been growing across the Caribbean against the background of the Black Lives Matter movement, which has inspired many around the globe to campaign for equality. And the thing is this, man. Forget equality, man. We better than them. Why are we trying to be equal with somebody that we better than? We're so low that we're just trying to creep up and get equality. Meanwhile, nobody else is trying to get equality, man. Everybody else is trying to be superior. Everybody else wants to be superior, but we're so inferior that we're just trying to level up to equality, man. Meanwhile, everybody else wants to be superior, and we're just trying to get equality. We need to aim higher, man. And the Lord is saying this: if we serve Him, we will be superior, man. We don't need no equality. Why do I want to be equal with them for? By me being equal with them means what? I can't enslave Prince William, man, because I'm equal. I want to be superior so I can do what the hell I want to do, man. So I can have a private jet and go and visit islands. I can go visit the lands that are destroyed. I can go visit the people that I've destroyed. I can go visit the people that I've enslaved and just wave from a plane. That's what being superior is, man. Superior is that where you can take a private jet to a country that you've destroyed, you and your forefathers, and that's what superior is. All right, let's read on. It says protesters gathered outside the British High Commission in Kingston with one placard held by a little girl reading, "Kings, queens, and princesses and princes belong in fairy tales, not in..." Exactly, man. Listen, give her a hand, man. What she said there was heavy, man. She goes, "Kings, queen, and princesses belong in fairy tales, not in Jamaica." Listen, man. It's true, man. They shouldn't belong where we belong, man. These so-called royals, they don't belong where we belong. Let's read on. It says, a royal source said the Duke was aware of the protest and was expected to acknowledge the issue of slavery in a speech on Wednesday night during a dinner hosted by the Governor General of Jamaica. Now, he's going to make a speech tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing what he's going to say, man. And I know what he's going to say already. He ain't going to give you no reparations. He's going to say slavery was bad. It shouldn't have happened. We don't condone it. That's what they all say, man. But they just speak like that. Like you try, and wanting an apology from them doesn't mean nothing, man. You know that they have a forked tongue, man. They say one thing and do the other. This man will say he's going to do this, but won't do it, man. He will apologize, but won't mean it. He'll just tell you sorry, just to, shut you up. And he won't mean it.
One, if I may.
Go ahead.
They're not even embarrassed, other one. They're more angry and vexed that we remember, which makes it twice as worse.
Exactly. They're angry. Listen, they're angry that we asking for reparations. Like to say, nigga, who are you? They're mad at you for asking for money back. They're mad at you for that. Meanwhile, all you're asking for is, run some of the money, man. And they're mad at you for asking that. Meanwhile, they're not mad at their ancestors for killing half the globe. They're not mad at their ancestors for killing half the world. But they're mad at you, Ariella, because you're saying, just give us $1 million or something. Let us start some black businesses or something. They're mad at you for that. Meanwhile, they just wanted you to just, be a slave. And your only reward was, we freed you from slavery. You're asking for too much now. Let's read on. A royal source said the Duke was aware of the protest and was expected to acknowledge. Hold on. Yeah, expected to acknowledge. Hold on, where was I? Yeah, expect to acknowledge the issue of slavery in a speech on Wednesday night during a dinner hosted by the Governor General of Jamaica, Opala Adisa, a retired professor in her 60s, is a gender specialist and human rights advocate who works with Advocates Network, a coalition of Jamaican politicians, business leaders, doctors, and musicians, and was taking part in the protest. She said, Kate and William are beneficiaries, so they are in fact complicit because they are positioned to benefit specifically from our ancestors, and we are not. Listen, give her a hand, man. What she said there was so right, man. Listen. Usually half these women ain't got no sense. This one's got a little bit of sense, man. Usually it's rare to find one with sense, but this one's got a little bit of sense, man. Especially in them high positions. She said, Kate and William are beneficiaries, so they are in fact complicit because they are positioned to benefit specifically from our ancestors, and we are not benefiting from our ancestors. Meaning we ain't benefiting from nothing, man.
Right.
But William and Kate is benefiting from all that money. Every white man is benefiting from slavery. Every white man that's ever ate sugar in his life is benefiting from slavery, man. Every white man that's ever put on a cotton t-shirt is benefiting from slavery, man. Any of them that's ever drank coffee is benefiting from slavery.
That's
They're
right.
benefiting from every time they put sugar in their coffee, man. Understand this. When you see them ask for 2 sugars, understand this. Your ancestors had to get whipped in order for them to get them 2 sugars, man.
That's
Every time
right.
they put Nescafe in that cup, man, your ancestors had to grind down them beans and get whipped so they can
That's
put
right.
Nescafe in that cup, man. Every time they say it's cold and they pull a cotton blanket around them, understand this. Your ancestors had to get whipped in order for them to be able to put that cotton blanket around them, man.
Right.
If they was against slavery, guess what they would do? No longer wear cotton, no longer drink coffee, no longer eat sugar, man. That's what they would do if they was really against slavery. But they're all for it, man. They're all for it because they love their coffee. Listen, who has coffee more than the white man? Nobody, man. He has 10 cups of coffee a day, man. 10 cups of coffee. Listen, if you've ever slaved with them and they have their own personal cup at work, it's full of, even when they wash it out, it's full of coffee stains, man. That coffee stain stays around the rim. You know where to pour the water to. That coffee stain stays around the rim, man. Who has more coffee than them? That man right there benefits of slavery, man. A man who has that much coffee benefits of slavery. Now, for a black man, you're entitled to have as much coffee as you like, man. You're entitled to have as much sugar as you like. You're
That's
entitled
right.
to have as much cotton as you like. Why? Because your people is the reason why they got all these things, man.
Right.
Let's see if there's any more. Says the luxury and the lifestyle that they have had and that they continue to have surprises all over the world for free with no expense. And it's true, man. They're parading around the world for free with no expense. People always saying, oh, black people can't get it together. Black people should have businesses by now. Listen, man. The cotton business should be ours, man. The coffee business should be ours. The sugar business should be ours. Because we don't produce all of it, man. We done all the work for these like to do what? Parade around and live a luxury lifestyle, man. Now William can take his wife on expensive dates. He can take his wife on private jets. Meanwhile, we can't, man. Because we ain't been paid out nothing. We don't benefit off nothing, but they do. So it's continue to have pricing all over the world for free with no expense. That is a result of my great-great-grandmother and grandfather, their blood and tears and sweat. And that's true, man. If you're an Israelite, your great-great-grandparents' blood, tears, and sweat built up this whole world, man. Not just England, built up this whole world. All these colonizers, man. All these colonists was built off what? Your great-great-grandparents' blood, sweat, and tears. And money doesn't change that, man. Guess what? Guess what fixes that? Them us seeing their blood, sweat, and tears, man. Right. That's what fixes it. No amount of money is good enough, but blood, sweat, and tears is, man. Seeing their blood, sweat, and tears, seeing them work until they can't work no more. That's better than them just, giving you a check. And the money they're giving you has the Queen's face on it anyway, man. I want something without the Queen's face on it, man. Right. I want them to pick cotton. That's what we want, man. Let's scroll down and see if there's more. She joined calls for an apology and said the monarchy should provide economic, social reparation, such as building us proper hospitals. Exactly, man. They don't even build them proper hospitals. Listen, man, what she's saying is so heavy. Let's read some more. She joined calls for an apology and said the monarchy should provide economic, social reparation, such as building us proper hospitals, providing and making sure that our children are educated through college level, and making sure land is equally distributed. But listen, man, we don't need the white man for none of that, man. Why don't we just separate from him and build our own hospitals? That's what we should do.
That's right.
Separate from him and educate our children ourselves, man. Separate from him and distribute the land equally. That's what we should do. We have a thing called the Bible, man, which is the word of God. And the word of God teaches us how to distribute land equally, man. It teaches us what we need to be educated in. It teaches us how to stay out of them hospitals, man. If we stick to them
Right.
dietary laws and all of them things, we don't need these people to do nothing for us. We've been asking them for a handout for too long. It's time we say, you know what? It's time we realize they're not going to give us a handout. We say, you know what? Damn them. We're going to just go do things our own way. We're gonna fend for ourselves, and that's why Moses had to leave Egypt and go into the wilderness, man, and build this nation back up. This nation had to be rebuilt in the wilderness. Why? Because this nation was too reliant on the Egyptians, man. They wanted help from everybody else. Some of them even wanted to go back into Egypt. And the Lord had to do what? Kill a ton of them there. Why? Because they was too brainwashed by the Egyptians, man. They couldn't change their thought process. They couldn't be made brand new. They just, was in love with the Egyptians, and the Lord had to be like, you know what? I'm going to have to wipe this generation out and start with a new generation who ain't whitewashed with these Egyptians and who ain't stuck in that mindset and that philosophy. A ton of us is stuck in that mindset and that philosophy. And this is why a ton of us is going to die here, man. Why? Because we don't see that the Lord has better things in store for us. So, Ariella, was you going to say something?
Laha, other one. Salakia, Laha.
Oh, all right, no, sir. Miss Adisa said, an apology is the first step towards healing and reconciliation. Listen, man, an apology ain't going to heal nothing. An apology can't heal a man that's dead, man. An apology can't heal a man that you whipped and ripped his back wide open, man. An apology can't heal a man where you threw salt in his wounds and you castrated him and you raped his wife. An apology don't heal that, man. There's no healing from this, man. There's nothing they can do to make us heal from this, man.
That's right.
Healing comes from the Lord, man. I feel healed when I'm the man with the whip. That's when I feel healed, man. When I'm the man with the whip. Let's read on. She added, we don't have anything personally against Kate and Prince William. Listen, I do, man. They're the sons of oppressors, man. They're devils, and their parents oppress minds, man. And they're in that high up position, and I'm in this low position. Why? Because of this oppression, man. So she added, we don't have anything personally against Kate and Prince William, and even the Queen for that matter. But we are simply saying you've done wrong, and it is way past time that you admit that you've done wrong, and when you do, redressing it. And they have done wrong, man. And they don't want to admit they've done wrong. Let me see if there's any more. The fact that our government is spending money to help provide security and finance for the Duke and Duchess who are wealthy is out. Listen, man. Imagine that. The government in Jamaica is spending money to provide security and finance for the Duke and Duchess who are wealthy is outrageous. It's criminal. It is criminal, man. That's criminal. That is so criminal, like she said, man. Imagine these rich people is taking the government is taking the money that should be used on the poor people and using it on William and Kate. William and Kate should at least have enough dignity to say, you know what? We feel for rich, we'll pay for our own security. We feel for rich, we'll pay for our own stuff. Meanwhile, the poor people of the land don't get none of these things for free. They don't get no security in Jamaica. Why do you think so much of them is being killed? Why? Because there's no security there, man. Let's read on. Because the Caribbean is fed up. The same thing happened in Belize. We are just saying enough is enough. We've been quiet. We have been nice. And that's true. Listen, man, black people, we've been nice for too long, man. Right. It's time for us to stop being nice and start talking the truth now, man. Right. It's time for us to start being true to ourselves, man. And letting them know that the devil, man. Right. That's what we need to do. Devil means deceiver. It's time for us to start being truthful to ourselves, man. Right. Like when you're silent about issues, man, all you do is start a war inside yourself, man. And you're warring with yourself and you make yourself miserable. Sometimes you have to let loose and let it out, man. You want your reparations, ask for them, man. You feel you've been wronged, let them know we've been wrong, man. Don't keep it all in and act like everything's nice when really we know everything ain't nice. Let's read on. It says, enough is enough. Let's deal with the racism and this discrimination. This is the part that I like now. Let's deal with the racism and this discrimination. And you can find us dealing with this racism and discrimination at 394 Lodge Road, man. You can find us dealing with it at camp. We're speaking to black people about the racism and discrimination, and they act like it don't exist. But finally, black people are seeing what we see, man. Especially these in the Caribbean. The more we are oppressed and the more they harm us, is the more we're going to see them for who they really are, man.
Right.
It seems
That's
like
right.
they oppress us some more for us to see them for who they really are. So, like Ariel, I was going to say something.
Laha, other one. I'm disagreeing with you.
So lucky, I thought you said something. So us seeing how they treat us and how they keep treating us, let them keep treating us that way. Why? Because the more black people will wake up, man. Black people is coming to a stage where black people who is batting for white people, they can't even deny the injustice. They can't even deny the wrongs. They can't even deny the wrongdoings. Hold on. Says it comes after the Advocates Network wrote an open letter detailing 60 reasons why the monarchy should compensate Jamaica to mark the country's 60th. And listen, man, that's so poetic. That's poetic, man. They wrote 60 reasons why the monarchy should compensate Jamaica to mark the country's 60th anniversary of independence. That's so poetic, man. The 60th anniversary, and they wrote 60 reasons, which means, guess what? When it's the 70th anniversary, we're going to write 70 reasons, man.
Right.
When it's the 900th anniversary, we're going to write 900 reasons, man. Because there's quadruple billion reasons why white people owe everything to black people, man. There's billions of reasons. And when you tell them, guess what? They don't hear one. They don't hear not one of your reasons. Out of these 60 reasons, they ain't going to hear not one. Says, meanwhile, it has been reported that Mark Golding, the opposition leader, intends to tell the royals during their visit many Jamaicans want an apology from the monarchy for its role in transporting people from Africa to the Caribbean. They took us, Israelites, we fled into Africa. They took us from West Africa, from Gambia and all of them places, Sierra Leone and all of them places. They took us over to the Caribbean, man. They transported us there. Says William and Kate will stay in Jamaica until Thursday when they depart for the Bahamas. Prince William leave our land. Listen, man, this was in Belize. We're going to show you the video from Belize as well. There's a video, if you can find it on YouTube. It says earlier in the tour, there was opposition from villagers in Belize. And listen, man, give those people from Belize a hand, man. Give these guys a hand, man. The people from Belize is listen, all Caribbean countries is sick of the white man, man.
Right.
People in Bahamas is sick of him. People in Jamaica. And it's so good that everywhere they're traveling, people is against them. Hey, Salaki, give me 1 second. All right, let's read on. So it says, earlier in the tour, there was opposition from villagers in Belize who cited a range of issues, including objections to the Cambridge's helicopter landing site, which forced the visit to a cacao farm to be cancelled. It was so they changed their visit. Hold on, let me. Ariella, give me Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 7.
Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, so give me Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 7. And if we got time, we're going to get into some books as well. If we got time.
The book of Ecclesiastes,
Hold on 1 second.
chapter 7 and verse 7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad.
Surely what?
and a gift destroyeth the heart.
So now it says oppression makes a wise man mad.
Oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift.
Oppression makes a wise man mad. And these people, they're oppressed, so they're angry. And it says a gift destroys the heart. So maybe they shouldn't give us reparations. Why? Because if they did give us reparations, that's just going to destroy all this anger we have, man. All this anger we have and all of this injustice we see. By them giving us money, that's just going to blind our vision, man. And it destroys what was in your mind in the first place. Now, in our mind is what? Separating from these devils, man, because they're such a horrible people. And by them seeing that, they might just give you a little gift and be like, all right, take this money. And then, guess what that would make black people do? White people ain't that bad. They did pay us reparations. Even though they murders us, they paid us money. And that gift will destroy the heart. Whereas, I don't even want their reparations, man. We should want justice from the Lord. Meanwhile, let's try, hold on, let me pull up a next article. Hold on. Hold on. All right, let me see if this is the right one. So imagine you've been asking for why is all these pop-up? Hold on. All right, so while you've been asking for reparations your whole life, you've been asking for reparations your whole life, and you can't get them, man. But what do England do? This is what England do with money. So meanwhile, England ain't got no money to give you. It says Britain pledges further 175 million pounds to help Ukraine. Imagine this. Meanwhile, England should be looking at giving you reparations. They're sending all this money to help Ukraine. Says British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said on Monday his government was pledging another 175 million pounds, 230.28 million in aid for Ukraine to help it deal with a growing humanitarian crisis. Yeah, so when it happened to black people, that wasn't a humanitarian crisis. This is the thing, man. We need to see these articles and read them and understand white people don't love us, man. Right. This is why they're sending all this money to Ukraine. Meanwhile, they've left your land desolate, man. They've left you without jobs. They've left you without your own culture, without your own nothing, man. You ain't got nothing. And we're not in a humanitarian crisis. And they can't give us money. You're asking for reparations and an apology, and you can't get that. Says the extra funding brings British support for Ukraine to about 400 million pounds, he said. Great Britain has gave Ukraine 400 million pounds, and England talk about a recession and no money. Listen, man. Damn Boris Johnson, man, and the Queen and all of them, man. All this money and we can't see a penny of it, but they're sending all this money because a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. Meanwhile, what they done to black people is worse than what's happening to them Ukrainians. They enslaved us and whipped us and killed us and separated families, man. And they didn't give you a penny for it, man. You didn't get a penny for it, but the Ukrainians get 400 million. Let's read on. The extra funding brings British support for Ukraine to about 400 million pounds, he said. I am announcing a further 175 million pounds of UK aid to Ukraine, 100 million of which will be provided directly to the Ukrainian government, Johnson said at a press conference. Damn Boris Johnson, man. I can't read no more of this, man. Imagine that. They'll help the Ukrainians, but then they don't want to help us, man. We can't get help from nobody. Black people have been trying to get help their whole life. Ukrainians go through some little crisis, and they're getting 400 million. Meanwhile, you've been going through all this stuff, 400 years plus of slavery, man. And when it got abolished, you didn't get a penny, man. All right, now let's get let me get another article. Hold on. All right, we don't even need to read this one too deep. Let me just share it. So now they abolished slavery, and hold on. Says the British government also paid £20 million, the equivalent of around £17 billion today. The British government also paid £20 million. So today that would be around £17 billion today, man. To compensate to compensate slave owners for the lost capital associated with freeing slaves. Listen, the government paid out that money to the slave owners, man, for losing their slaves. Says this payout was a massive 40% of the government's budget and required many bonds to slave owners to effectuate the law. Listen, man. The slave master got paid. How many slave masters were compensated in Britain? See? There were some 47,000 recipients of compensation in total. In addition to money, slave owners received another form of compensation. The guaranteed free labor of blacks on plantations for a period of years after emancipation. See, most people didn't even know that after slavery, some black people still had to work free on the field. Some black people still had to work for free. You thought slavery was over when they abolished it. Some black people had basically a contract where they had to finish off that contract, man. They're working for free. Says there was some 47,000. That's a large number, man. That means 47,000 devils got paid, man. 47,000 devils got paid. 47,000 slave masters, man. This is just British slave owners, by the way. This ain't Portuguese slave owners. This ain't French slave owners. This ain't Dutch slave owners. This is British slave owners, man. They all got paid compensation. And then what did black people get? Nothing. It says here, these devils even got the guaranteed free labor of blacks on plantations for a period of years after emancipation. The free labor of blacks, man. And that's what they love. That's what they got rich off, free labor. Meaning it's like you go to work now, but you don't take a paycheck home. You just go to work and your paycheck goes with this, man. They was getting free labor, man. Sun up to sundown. And you say that. So they say we're supposed to love these people, man. Meanwhile, they don't love us. 47,000 of them got paid, man. And what did you get? Nothing, man. You didn't even get your freedom. You still have to finish off that basic, that secret contract, man. All right, let's stop sharing that. Give me hold on. And now, imagine this. The same way these slave owners is getting paid. Meanwhile, you want money and you can't get it. Is the same way right now you're asking for reparations and the Ukrainians is getting paid. Right. It's always somebody else getting paid and it's never us, man. Yeah. Whenever we ask for money, they go give the money to somebody else to teach us a lesson. When we ask for money, somebody else gets the money and not us. They do all these things to teach us a lesson, man. It's about time we stop asking them for stuff and start serving the Lord, man. That's what we should do, man. Hold on, let me get a... Let me go into a book. Hold on. And we built their colonies, man. Oh, hold on, let me just add Ariella back in.
Can you hear me, other one?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Can't, other one can't.
Yeah, read this from the cut as well. You might need that mic there, page 159. So this is a book called The History of Jamaica.
The Jamaican grain became more expensive than the one from Barbados. By 1670, there were more than 600 windmills in the island.
So now this is obviously all the stuff they need for the people of Jamaica to, build up their colonies and make all the cotton and the sugar cane and whatnot. So this is the windmills and all the stuff they had. Go ahead.
And 10 times more in 1730.
And 10 times more in 1730, meaning what? Means they was pumping out labor, man. Meaning they was doing work, they was producing, so they had to get more stuff to accommodate the amount of work that was getting put out. Go ahead.
Jamaica now counted 430 plantations.
It had what?
430 plantations.
Jamaica had 430 plantations. And in order to have a plantation, what do you need on the plantation? You need slaves on them plantations, man.
Right.
So imagine all these plantations is producing different things. There's slave labor going on 430 plantations with a number of slaves on each plantation. And they're working sun up to sundown. And we can't even get no reparations, but read on.
Owned by rich planters.
Owned by who?
Rich planters.
And how did these planters get rich? They got rich by forcing us to work for free.
That's right.
Imagine if your workplace has 50 employees, and at the end of the month, let's say their wages is, let's say there's 50 employees, let's say their wages is $2,000 a month. Imagine this planter takes home all of those 50 people's $2,000, man. He takes all of it home. They get nothing. They're just working for free. Of course, you're going to be rich and wealthy, man. And that's how most of these white people became rich. And this is how most businesses are set up. They set up businesses that way. Why?
Right.
Because their forefathers raped and robbed and murdered everybody and had all the money and had all of your wages that you were supposed to get and set up a business. And with this business that they set up, white people look down on black people. Like, why don't they get a job? Look how poor they are, man. Why don't they do something with themselves? Not realizing you got your start based off the back of my people, man. You got rich off of the back of our people. That's how you set up all your businesses. You didn't set up your business by hard work. Jeff Bezos didn't become a billionaire by hard work. Mark Zuckerberg didn't become a billionaire by hard work. These men was wealthy before they started these things, man.
Right.
It's only
That's
us
right.
who have these rags to riches story, man. It's only us that have these rags to riches story. The white man's life is from riches to riches.
That's right.
He's already rich and he just gets richer. Go ahead.
These planters became so powerful that the sugar colonies, as these islands came to be called, were the most valuable possessions of any empire.
So now, these sugar fields, man, became they're so great and making so much money that this became one of the best things in the colonies, man. That Jamaica had the planters in Jamaica had the best ones. Why? Because they was pumping out the most sugar at one time. They was the richest, man. Amongst slave masters, they was probably the richest. Why? Because of all the planters, man. All the planters that was making us pump out the sugar. And considering these planters were so rich, when you look at Jamaica right now, Jamaica's not rich. The Caribbean ain't rich. But the planters who was there was rich, which lets you know, man, heaven and hell is a condition, man. And we in hell right now, meanwhile, this man's in his heaven. While this man makes cotton, that's us in hell. And us picking his cotton puts him in heaven, man.
That's
While we
right.
become poor and broke, we in hell. While he becomes rich and makes all this money, he's in heaven, man. Heaven and
That's
hell is
right.
conditioned on the earth. Right. And we in hell. And this man is in heaven, man. Imagine that you're a rich planter, living life so rich that you're just spending money without even seeing it, man. With us, when we go to Asda, man, we have to work out the things in the what's it called, man. We have to put things in the trolley and add it to the calculator, man. This one's £2. And then we be trying, listen, man, us black people are so poor that what? We be buying the out-of-date stuff, man.
Right.
The stuff which is past the expiry date. We be seeing fruits which is 2 pence cheaper, and we're getting the fruit because it's 2 pence cheaper, man. That's how you know you're poor, when you're getting fruit because it's 2 pence cheaper. We see the chicken wings, man. One's 60 pence cheaper. We get the cheaper option, man. That's what being poor is. They don't have that struggle. The white man does what? He shops in Morrison's and all them high-end shops, man, and he can afford it. Whereas we have to calculate what we can afford before we go in the shop. Read on.
Fiercely fought over in every war that broke out in Europe.
And this is letting you know that what? Every war that broke out in Europe between what? White men versus white men, which is Ukraine versus Russia, they all fight over wealth and riches, man. They was fighting back then over the sugar colonies. They was fighting back then over what? Who could have the most slaves?
Right.
Their fight was over who could enslave you. That's what their fight's always been over, man. None of their fights has been to free you. Their fights has been who can have the best sugar cane fields, who can pump out the most coffee, who can make the most money. That's what they're fighting over. And then they beat you in the process. Why? Because if you ain't making enough sugar, you're slowing down their business, man.
Right.
You're slowing it down. So they beat you in the process, man. Read them.
And as fiercely bargained for at every peace conference.
And listen, man, they used to have conferences. All of them used to have conferences. All these nations used to have conferences. Let us be in charge of this business. You be in charge of that business. Let us do that. Let us do this. They would have their meetings and their sit downs and all of those kind of things. They would do all of these things. And it was all about business for them. Meanwhile, this is your life hangs in the balance. Imagine to them it's just business. And to you, your life hangs in the balance. Read on.
Says Black. Their importance in the eyes of governments was out of all proportion to their size. Indeed, the British West Indians had more political influence with their government in England than did all 13 American mainland colonies. Their indignation at the favor shown to these islands was one of the grievances that led them to revolt. To revolt against British rule and become an independent republic. Thus, Jamaica, at first a mere consolation prize for the Western design, became the richest possession of the British in the New World.
Listen, man. Jamaica became the richest possession of the British in the New World, man. All that sugarcane, all that coffee that was being pumped out, man. Everything that was coming out of the Caribbean made them rich, man. And they loved it. Why? Because it was making them money. So this land right here, everybody wanted it, man. Because they knew, it was good. And it's pumping out all of these things. So the British and the Spanish fought over Jamaica. Why? Because they wanted the slaves that was there. And that's how that's how Belize got involved. Why? Because the Buccaneers did what? Who's the British pirates? They went to Belize to fight off the Spanish. So they would stake out in Belize to fight off the Spanish. And then when there was in the land of Belize, they said, you know what? Let's take some of the slaves from Jamaica to Belize. So what you'll find is the people in Belize is Benjamites also, because they was taken from Jamaica and placed in Belize to do what? Carry out slavery, man. Read on.
A status she owned to her slaves. This is what Voltaire reminds his contemporaries of in Candide, London, 1759. Two characters come across a mutilated slave in Suriname.
And Suriname as well. Caribbean country. Go ahead.
When we work at the sugar canes and the mill snatches hold of a finger.
Listen, man, the mill would snatch hold of a finger, which is blood, sweat, and tears. What they was talking about, man. Blood, sweat, and tears, which they was talking about.
Right.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Let me read it again. When we work at the sugar canes and the mill snatches hold of a finger, they cut off our hand.
They do what?
They cut off our hand.
Imagine that. When the mill catches hold of a finger, these devils would cut your hand off. Why not just, help you get your finger out or whatever? They would cut your hand off. No matter reparations is going to give a man his hand back, man.
Right.
Giving me money in a hand that I can't hold it with is no good to me, man. Cutting a man's hand off and trying to give him money, it's not cutting it, man. That ain't cutting it. Read on.
And when we attempt to run away, they cut off our leg.
Hold on, when what?
When we attempt to run away, They cut off our leg.
Listen, man, you would attempt to run away and they would cut off your leg. This is what these people want an apology for. They want an apology for these things, man. Because when we attempt to run away, they cut off our legs. Go ahead.
Both cases happened to me. It is at this expense.
This is someone who it happened to. He said both cases happened to me, which means he had his leg, both legs cut off, man, and his hands. Both cases happened to me. This is a slave speaking, man. Go ahead.
It is at this expense of ours that you eat sugar in Europe.
It is what?
It is at this expense of ours that you eat sugar in Europe.
Listen, white man, when you eat sugar in Europe, man, understand the black man's finger got caught in the millennia to have his hand chopped off.
Right.
Understand the black man's legs got chopped off. Every time you eat sugar, remember that, man. Every time you eat sugar, remember there's a judgment coming to you, man.
Right.
Because in order for you to get this sugar, some people had to go through something horrible, man.
Right.
Listen, man. The German man, listen, the Jewish man don't drive a German car because he's mad at the Germans, man. He's mad at the Germans, so he don't drive a German car. Listen, man. If the white man was really mad about slavery, he wouldn't eat sugar never again, man.
That's right.
He would be like the Jewish man and eat no sugar, man. He wouldn't wear no cotton t-shirts. The thing is this, man. It's a slap in the... Listen, them even eating sugar's a disrespect, man.
Right.
Knowing what black people had to go through in order for them to get this sugar, in order for them to get this rum. Read on, get them on that.
A speech relayed by Montesquieu in the spirit of laws. Sugar would be too expensive if the plant producing it were not cultivated by slaves.
Yeah, read that again.
Sugar would be too expensive.
Sugar would be too expensive if what?
If the plant producing it,
If the plant producing it
were not cultivated by slaves.
were not cultivated by slaves, which means the only reason they have sugar is because of us, and they said it was too expensive. But when you got somebody working for free, nothing's expensive, man.
Right.
Imagine this. It's too expensive, but they made you do it for free, which makes it not expensive, man. You cultivated it and done it for free, and you asked for a little bit of reparations, and you can't get them, man.
Right.
You asked for a little bit of change, and you can't get them.
That's right.
Meanwhile, they said sugar was expensive, man. To cultivate it was expensive. If it wasn't for black people, they would never have sugar, man.
That's right.
Why? Because they're lazy and they don't want to work for nothing. They wouldn't be asked to put in that graft and all that work, but you have to put in that work for free.
Right.
You have to put in all that graft for free. Meanwhile, nobody else wants to work and put in a graft. But when they force you to do it for free, then they set up businesses. Listen, man, they're going to have to work for free for us. I'm going to find a plant which is expensive to cultivate,
Right.
and they're going to work on that plant. Same like we. And listen, when I say working, I'm not talking about no marijuana. Niggas hear cultivation and think it's just marijuana and all of them things. We ain't talking about that. Listen, I'm going to get some sugar cane and they're going to have to do the work as well.
Right.
They're going to have to grind it down and all of them things. Just so they know what we went through, man.
That's right.
They have to work in them same weather conditions like we worked in them weather conditions. Go ahead, any more on that?
Charvoy confesses that without their slaves,
But listen, even a white man confessed. A devil confessed. What did he confess?
the best established colonies would be of little value.
The best established colonies would be of little value. Go ahead.
That's it.
So now he's saying their best colonies would be of little value without the slaves, man. Meaning what? It was the slaves that made their colonies. It was the slaves that made their country rich, man. That's what it was, man. It was the slaves that made their country rich. And without us, it would be of little value. Now let's go to the Belize one where they're standing there with their signs now.
In a small village in Belize, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are simply not welcome.
The people are upset about this. So we are
Indian Creek was meant to be the first stop for the royals as they embark on an 8-day charm offensive in the Caribbean. But now their visit here has been forcibly scrapped. Its indigenous residents said they weren't consulted about the arrival and took greater issue with the Duke's links to a conservation charity with which they're in dispute.
It's what we call a double stamp in the case. You can't go to Buckingham Palace and just say, well, clear the land, we're coming through. You know, reverse the role in our case. You have to go to, you have to ask, you have to inform people, and if you allow them, you go ahead. So that is what the community has decided to say, no, this cannot continue to happen.
Following their protest, Kensington Palace confirmed that due to sensitive issues involving the community, the royals' visit has been moved to a different location. But a wider issue around the consequences of the colonial past remains, and it could overshadow what's being seen as an important tour.
There are many of us in this country that are looking toward becoming a republic, as Barbados did, as we feel that we are perhaps entitled to do. It's something that we are within the legacy of colonialism and neo-colonialism starting to explore, and this trip has really brought that to the forefront.
It was only last year when Barbados removed the Queen as its head of state. The royal family see it as up to individual countries to decide their futures, but there will undoubtedly be an emphasis on shared interests and working together, even if not everyone wants the red carpet rolled out for them. Rhiannon.
And look, man, the people of Belize want to remove the Queen from head of state, man. She wants to remove the Queen from head of state. Read this from Quasar. This is page 352. This is Punches of the World in Minutes.
Belize has a diverse landscape.
So this is just a little bit about Belize. Go ahead.
Belize has a diverse landscape that includes mangrove swamps,
Go ahead.
lagoons, and rainforests.
So that's what Belize has. Go ahead.
Its coast is covered by a section of the Mesoamerican Reef, the largest such body in the Northern Hemisphere. Belize was the site of several Maya city-states, and although these went into decline from 900 CE, the population resisted Spanish incursions during the 16th century. The first European colonists were British pirates and
The what?
The first European colonists.
So now, Belize was colonized by British pirates, man. Because British pirates that came from the Caribbean to fight off the Spanish, send the land and said, yo, let's colonize it. Go ahead.
Were British pirates and loggers.
Listen, man. The white man he colonizes everything, man.
Right.
The British pirates that colonized it, they came from Britain, started scouting out all the lands, and they colonized it, man. Go ahead.
Who settled coastal areas from the mid-17th century.
Who did what? So they set up coastal areas from the mid-17th century. What's it? I'll read it from there. So it says, British pirates and loggers who settled coastal areas from the mid-17th century fighting off Spanish attempts to dislodge them that continued until 1798. The area became the colony of British Honduras in 1862. So that was the name of it originally. Basically, they named it that, and it says, and changed its names to Belize in 1973. So back then it weren't called Belize, it was called what? British Honduras. Because obviously names of lands change over time. So now, says disputes over Guatemala's claim to the territory delayed independence until 1981. So Guatemala was claiming, yo, this is our land. Obviously the British was like, no, this is our land, and so forth. Says the issue remains unresolved. Until this day, it's unresolved. Because why? The white man wants everybody's land, man. He wants Belize. He wants Jamaica. He wants a head of state over all these lands. He even wants India. He wants everywhere, man. It's colonized everywhere. Because he wants all these lands to himself. Says, and Britain maintains a military presence in the country. And Britain maintains a military base in Belize, man. They still have their military in the country till this day. So imagine this. We trying to stop William and Kate from coming. We need to get the British out of all our lands, man. Right. We need to not allow, but while it is, these lands ain't our rightful home anyway, man. Our land is the land of Israel. And this is why in the Bible it says they're going to have a kingdom which is not left to other people, man. There's going to be no military base in our land by some other nation, man. Our land is going to only be for us. Let's read on. Partly to protect Belize's sovereignty as an independent nation, Belize has become a stable parliamentary democracy, although poverty and drug-related crime remain problematic. I wonder why there's poverty and drug-related crime. I wonder why. Because the white man's been there, man. That's why there's poverty and drug-related crime. Imagine you made all this money off us, and there's poverty. Which means what? They stole everything and didn't leave one thing, man. Like the Bible says, you would think that a man would steal and leave one grape, but not this man. This man steals and don't even leave one grape, man. He takes everything. And now the Belize people is in poverty. Now all the people over the Caribbean is in poverty. And this poverty is making them realize the white man is the devil, man. That's what this poverty is making them realize. That's what this poverty is making them see. Let's read on. Says the economy is based on agricultural exports and tourism, both of which are vulnerable to global marketing conditions and hurricanes. And listen, man, guess what? You see the tourist spots in Belize. Ain't no black people benefiting from it. The tourist spots in the Caribbean, ain't no black people benefiting from it. Hold on.
That's right.
Hold on. Hold on. And now there's a holiday in Belize as well. So this is another book. It's called all the countries we've invaded. And it says, and the few we never got around to. Letting you know, man. Listen, the man who wrote this book's a proud bastard, man. It says all the countries we've invaded and the few we never got around to. And he wrote this book in kind of comedy style because he's taking the piss. To him, it's a joke that they've invaded all these countries. So now it says, the Spanish were approaching with significant forces and the Baymen decided to arm slaves to help fight their attackers. So they would arm slaves to help fight their attackers, meaning what? They've always got us involved in their wars, man. In Belize, they got us involved in their wars. They armed slaves to help us, so we could fight their attackers. I'm surprised these people of Belize didn't say, well, you're attacking us. Imagine that. If they arm me to fight their attackers, what's stopping me from attacking them? Because they're the attacker, man. Every white man is the attacker. These people of Belize should have said, I'm going to attack him. And then you have to, because you're both attacking us. So they armed these slaves to go fight the Spanish, because obviously they was having a war over Belize. The Spanish wanted all the Caribbean, and Great Britain wanted it. So it says, the Spanish were approaching with significant forces, and the Baymen decided to arm slaves. So that's what they called them, the Baymen. The Baymen decided to arm slaves to help fight their attackers. On the 10th of September, the two forces clashed in the Battle of St. George's Caye. It went on for 2 hours, and by the end of it, the Spanish had had enough and retreated. The victory is still celebrated in Belize as an annual holiday. This was the final Spanish attempt to take control of the area. In 1862, we formally declared it a crown colony called British Honduras. So now they labeled it a colony called British Honduras, and there's a holiday that they celebrate in Belize till this day when they believe they defeated the Spanish. That's not our victory, man. That's the white man's victory, because the British man was fighting against the Spanish man. That's their victory. That has nothing to do with us. Hold on, give me let me get one more. Now we're gonna show you some of the things we'll do to you in slavery, man. This book's called The Trader, the Owner, the Slave. So give me page 131.
In 17...
And actually, hold on. And Ariella, you give me Ecclesiastes 7:7 again. Let's just read that one more time.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a
Surely
gift
what?
destroyeth the heart.
See, surely oppression makes a wise man mad, and a gift destroys the heart. Now we're gonna read some things right now that no amount of reparations can fix, man.
Right.
No amount of money can fix. Go on, give me that.
In 1756, he devised a degraded form of retribution that is hard to explain. At the time, food was scarce, and the slaves were foraging for survival.
So now there was a time like the land weren't producing how it was supposed to because of the heat waves and all that, and food was scarce. So what the slave masters had to do is they had to pay for food to feed their slaves, but kind of like today they feed you the scraps. So they was giving them scraps, and obviously the slaves were hungry because there's no food. They're working all these hours and they're hungry. Go ahead.
Hot weather had parched the land,
Because hot weather had parched the land. Go ahead.
and crops withered in the ground.
And crops withered in the ground, meaning nothing was producing. Go ahead.
Thistlewood had to buy in food
So this is Thomas Thistlewood, slave owner.
to feed,
But this man worked on a plantation of slaves. Go ahead.
to feed his slaves, but this still was not enough.
And he had to buy food to feed his slaves, but it still was not enough. Why? Because the amount of food he was buying was scarce. It was a small amount. Go ahead.
And the slaves wandered the neighborhood looking for scraps.
And the what?
Slaves wandered the neighborhood looking for scraps.
And the slaves wandered the neighborhood looking for scraps. That's our life, man. We constantly looking for scraps. We've been looking for scraps from like 400 years ago, man. Still till this day.
Mad,
But
bro.
If Thistlewood caught them,
and now the slave master, if he caught you looking for scraps because you're hungry, go ahead.
he whipped them.
He did what?
He whipped them.
Listen, man. You're hungry and you're caught looking for scraps. This man would whip you. Go ahead.
One particular slave, Darby, tested Thistlewood more than others.
Now there was a slave called Darby. He just didn't care. Like this man would get whipped, and he still would keep doing what he's doing. So they wanted to teach him a lesson, and there's some things that they do to him, which we're gonna read on, which they done to him to teach him a lesson. Go ahead.
He ate the sugar cane.
And this man was eating the sugar cane. Imagine you're working, you're hungry. There's sugar there, so he's eating the sugar cane. Like we do. You work in McDonald's. Sometimes you take a nugget, man, because you're hungry. You work in a food shop. Sometimes you're picking at the food while you're eating because you're hungry. They was trying to do that while they was, working on the sugar cane. Go ahead.
Ran away.
And he ran away also. And I see why he ran away. You're in slavery. You're living in horrible conditions. People are whipping you. Of course you're gonna run away. When you run away, they'll chop your leg off. You're running away. Why? Because you're not safe at that place, man. And you want safety. And imagine everywhere you run, there's no safety. There's one man that ran from his plantation to a next plantation. And when he got to the next plantation, they whipped him, man. Whipped him half to death. Imagine he ran from one white man to the next, thinking one was going to save him. The thing is this, none of them is going to save you, man.
Right.
None of them is going to save you. And we've been doing that our whole life, running from one oppressor to the next. Running from the British to the Spanish, from the Spanish to the Dutch. And listen, they all the same, man. They all want free labor out of us. Every last one of them. Running to them, there's no safety in none of them. And we need to wake up and smell the coffee and realize ain't no safety in none of them.
That's right.
Was locked in the stocks.
And he was locked in the stocks, man. Go ahead.
The bilboes.
Go ahead.
And was whipped.
And was whipped. So they whipped him some more. Go ahead.
But he did not seem to care.
Boy, what?
He did not seem to care.
And listen, they would beat him, and this man just had enough. He didn't care. They kept beating him. He didn't care. Go ahead.
When on 26th of May, 1756.
So the 26th of May, 1756. How much years is this? What is our 17, 18, 19? About 300 plus years ago. About 300 and something years ago, which ain't that long ago, man. 300 and something years ago ain't that long ago, man. If you got 3 grandparents that lived to 100 years old, it's not that long ago, man. 300 years is, that's a few years back. It's not that long ago. Go ahead. People make out like slavery was thousands of years ago. No, it ain't that long ago. So this happened 300 years ago to this slave called Darby, which could have been your granddad or my granddad. Read on.
Darby was again discovered eating sugarcane.
So he's eating sugarcane again, man. And this man keeps getting caught eating sugarcane. He's like one of them rebellious slaves that ain't listening. Go ahead.
Thistlewood had him well flogged.
He had him what?
Well flogged.
And flogged means whipped and beaten. So they flogged him. Go ahead.
And pickled.
And pickled. Now, back they called it pickled because what they would do is they would after flogging you is beating you. So once your back and your legs is all ripped open and whatnot, they would pickle you, meaning what? They would rub salt in the wounds and lemon juice and all of them things to make it burn. So imagine that someone put salt in the wound and lemon juice. No amount of reparations can change that, man. No amount of money they give can fix that, man. Imagine that they put salt and lime and other fruits in the wounds, and that's why they call it pickling. So they pickled him. So this was one of the punishments to do to slaves back then. This is just the ones which has been recorded, because why Thistlewood used to keep a diary. Like Samuel Pepe was some guy that wrote about the land on fire and all the underage girls he was having sex with. It's because he kept a diary. Now you wouldn't know these things because most of the slave masters didn't keep a journal. Now these journals that they're finding from the slave masters is all disgusting, and these things was normal back then. So they just wrote about it in their diary, and we're discovering it and reading these atrocities now. But I read on.
Then made Hector shit in his mouth.
Oh, he did what?
Made Hector shit in his mouth.
Good night. Read that again. See, this is the listen. This man is the devil, man. Imagine that. He made a slave shit in the other slave's mouth, man. As a punishment. Reparations ain't good enough. Reparations ain't good enough. The white man is the devil the Bible speaks of, man. Listen, man.
That's right.
Disgusting, man. Look at these disgusting acts that he's got people. Didn't read that part again. Disgusting, man. And this could be your granddad or my granddad, man. Listen, man.
Then made Hector shit in his mouth.
Read on.
Later that summer, a different slave suffered the same fate.
Later that summer, a different slave suffered the same fate. Listen, man. This devil made another slave shit in another slave's mouth. And Prince William and Kate can't understand why black people feel a certain way about them. White people can't understand why we go to camp and feel a certain way about them.
Right.
Because you've got people shitting in our mouths, man.
Right.
Which is disgusting, man.
That's right.
It's horrible, man. It's nasty. And listen, man, even thinking about it is making me feel sick, man. Imagine how the man feels who it actually happened to. No amount of money could make him say he forgives white people, man.
Right.
That's
we can't
right.
forgive them after reading that, man. That shit right there is unforgivable, man. That's disgusting. Read on.
Port Royal ran away, and when recaptured,
And this slave ran away. Go ahead.
Thistlewood gave him a moderate whipping.
He gave him a moderate whipping, man. Meaning, you see how you got beginner, moderate, and intermediate. He gave him a whipping, man. Like you give him a good whipping. Go ahead.
Pickled him well.
And you pickled him well, meaning they beat this man, flogged him, beat him, and put salt in the wounds, man, and squeezed lime juice and lemon juice and rubbed it on him. Imagine the burn you're feeling, man. The cuts is fresh, and they're putting salt in there, and they're putting lemon and pick. Oh, listen, man. Slavery ain't no joke, man. And William and Kate can't understand why black people are asking for reparations. They can't understand it. Why people are asking for reparations. Because look at what they went through, man. And Prince William and Kate parade themselves around like everything's normal, like everything's fine, like life is good. When this is what we went through, go ahead.
Made Hector shit in his mouth.
Listen, man. Listen, this man's making Hector shit in everybody's mouth, man. This slave master is, listen, this man's disgusting, man. Read on. So lucky. He's making Hector shit in everybody's mouth, man. Reparations ain't cutting it, man. Reparations ain't cutting it, man. Imagine that. If they offered you $1 billion, it's not cutting it, man. Listen, man. We're better than the money we're asking them for, man. We want justice, man. So lucky. Quasar's got to calm down. So lucky. Listen, man. It's disgusting, man. Like, who even thinks of that as a method of torture? Who even thinks of that as a method of torture, man? Only
The devil himself.
So I can say that again, Arielle.
Slucky other one. The devil himself thinks of it.
Exactly. And you see that to him, that is, just every day to him is doing that, and it's like to him, it's like it's normal. Meanwhile, it's a lucky. How do you do that to a man? And this is why these devils need to understand why we're asking for an apology, and an apology is not cutting it, man. You've shitted in a man's mouth, and an apology ain't good enough. And they won't even say sorry. Somebody needs to read all these stories to Prince William and Princess Kate and Queen Elizabeth. We need to read all these stories to them, man. We need to sit the Queen down and say, look, Elizabeth, hear us out for half an hour. And listen, man, they need to hear these stories. These devils need to hear these stories of what their forefathers done, man. Why they're parading and looking down on black people. Just look at what your forefathers done to us, man. Read on.
Immediately put a gag, put in.
Go back a bit and read it.
Thistlewood gave him a moderate whipping, pickled him well, made.
Like, imagine, man. They got Hector doing stuff you don't want to do. Like, imagine Hector the slave as well, and the slave master saying, and they do that. Like, Thistlewood won't do it himself. He'll make the slave do it, and then you'll be mad at the slave. You'll be mad at the slave saying, yo, he done this, not realizing the slave master forced him to do it. Let me read that. It says, Darby was again discovered eating. Hold on. It says later that summer, different slaves suffered the same fate. Port Royal ran away, and when recaptured, Thistlewood gave him a moderate whipping, pickled him well, made Hector shit in his mouth, immediately put in a gag while his mouth was full, and made him wear it for 4 or 5 hours. Listen, man. Imagine that. Listen, man. This man is the devil, man. Imagine it made the man shit in his mouth and then gagged his mouth so he can't spit it out. So he had to swallow that shit, man. And the gag was on his mouth for 4 to 5 hours. How can you tell me I must love people, white people after this, man? Listen, man. They're a disgusting set of people. Even their torture methods is inhumane, man.
That's right.
Beating a man is one thing, but then you pickle him. That's going too far, man.
Right.
Whipping a man is one thing, but then you cut his legs and his hands off. That's too far, man.
That's right.
Beating a man is one thing, but then you shit in his mouth and put a gag on it and make him swallow it, man. That's disgusting, man.
That's right.
Imagine being a man and another man shitted in your mouth, man. How does your woman look at you after that, man? Listen, man. This man's disgusting, man. And William and Kate can't understand why black people is mad at them. They can't understand why black people is banning them from coming, banning them from coming to the Caribbean. Let's read that part again, man. Just let us read it one more time, man. It says, Port Royal ran away, and when recaptured, Thistlewood gave him a moderate whipping, pickled him, well, made Hector shit in his mouth, and immediately put in a gag. That's disgusting, man. While his mouth was full, and made him wear it for 4 or 5 hours. So imagine that. This was the torture they was doing to the slaves. They shit in your mouth and tie your mouth with a gag straight away. So the shit that is in your mouth, you can't even spit it out. You have to swallow it, man. That's disgusting, man. It was full of made him wait for 4 or 5 hours. It says, in the next week, the same punishment was twice inflicted on a female slave. Listen, man, they was punishing our women too, man. This is why we tell our women you shouldn't be lying down with them. And even outside of that, it's against God for you to lie down with them anyway, man. But why would you want to lie down with them after all this slavery they put you through? Right. After all this oppression, all this torture? Let's read on. It says, in the next week, the same punishment was twice inflicted on a female slave, Phyllis. So now, they've done the same thing to a woman, shitted in a woman's mouth as well and made her eat it, which is disgusting. It says, Phyllis, and on the 30th of July, he flogged 2 erring slaves, Punch and Kwaku, and then washed and rubbed in salt, pickle, lime juice, and bird pepper. Imagine you put pepper in a man's wounds, man. That's the kind of stuff they was doing. Reparations in money is not enough, man. Right. Justice from the Lord is what we need, man. Because money ain't cutting it. Let's read some more. Also whipped Hector for losing his hoe. Now hoe is a stick. Now Hector's the slave that he used to make Hector defecate in everyone's mouth. And now he whipped Hector for losing his hoe, which is a stick, I believe. It says whipped Hector for losing his hoe, and he goes, he made the new Negro Joe piss in his eyes and mouth, etc. Listen, man, these is the kind of tortures that this devil was doing. Dude, open your eyes and make someone piss in your eyes, man, in your eyes and mouth. Listen, man, this oppressor is gay, man. He's gay. That's why he's doing these things. Who even thinks to piss on a man? That is gay, man. It says, a day later, he clamped another runaway in the bilboes, gagged him, locked his hands together, rubbed him with molasses, and exposed him naked to the flies. Listen, man. Molasses is something sweet, and flies love molasses. And he exposed you so all the mosquitoes and all these things can do what? Can bite you and all of them things. Listen, man. Or imagine that, man. All these molasses, all these flies and mosquitoes will bite you, man. It's disgusting, man. Imagine that's our grandparents, our great grandparents that this happened to. Some of us walk around today like we're free, talking about that was in the past. Listen, man. These things actually happened. Don't ever say that was in the past. Just put yourself in that position. That could have been you, man. That could have been you right there. These things is disgusting, man. The atrocities that they do to us. And they still do these things to black people till this day, man. You just don't hear about it. You just don't hear about it. And listen, man. The thing is, they do these things to black people. What do they do now? They pay you. So they pay you. There'll be a white man that's got a fetish for a black woman. What do they do? Pays her so he can do all these weird sex things to her. So he can defecate on her and urinate on her. You heard what happens in Dubai? Women go to Dubai for them Arabs to shit on them, man. You heard about that, what they do in Dubai, right? They all go to Dubai and these Arab men shit on the women because that's these Arab men's fetish. And they love black women. So they will go defecate on these black women over there. And now they just give you a bit of money. Whereas back then, you knew it was wrong. And they would do these things to you, all these atrocities. Give me Isaiah chapter 14 and verse... Ariel, get me Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 21. So now we're in the book. Now we're going to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 14. And
The
verse
book of
20.
Isaiah, chapter 14. The book of Isaiah, chapter 14 and verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers,
Says,
that they
prepare
do not
slaughter
rise.
children for the iniquity of their fathers, man. For the iniquity of what? Thomas Thistlewood, man. Getting people to defecate in people's mouths. Prepare slaughter for them, man. Prepare slaughter for William and Kate's grandparents, man, because they're the children of slave masters, man. They're the children of slave masters. It says prepare slaughter for their children, man. Don't say be friends with them. We prepare this slaughter for them by going at camp and telling them their judgment, man. We preparing them for their judgment that they deserve. Every last one of them deserve it, man. Because imagine a man's hungry and he's eating some sugar cane. And because he eats sugar cane, you get someone to defecate in his mouth. Prepare slaughter for them, man. Go ahead.
Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise.
For the iniquity of their fathers, man. Meaning, look, guess what, man? It's not in the past. God didn't say it's in the past. God said their children is going to be punished for what their fathers did, man. We was punished for what fathers did. What our fathers did, we got punished for it. And it's only right these devils get punished for what their fathers did, man. It's only right. Read on.
Go on, another one, go on. That they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with their cities.
Know what? Fill the face of the earth with their cities. Listen, man. The Lord's going to have it where these men never possess anything again. Where these men can never fill the earth with cities again, man. Where these men can never do nothing again. Why? Because what do? They conquer the whole earth. They take over everything. They steal everything. And it's about time. It's about time that this man has to go now, man. His time's almost up. It's about time that this man has to go. This man's been around oppressing people for way too long. It's about time he gets moved out of the way, man. and then black people can finally live, man. Reparations, it sounds nice, but we need more than money, man. Money ain't cutting it. After what they done to our ancestors, money ain't cutting it. Read that for me one more time, Ariel.
Khan, another one, Khan. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the
Prepare
iniquity
slaughter
of
for his
their
children.
for the
Like-
iniquity of
Go ahead.
for the iniquity of their fathers.
For the iniquity of their fathers. Listen, man. Everybody better get in the ISUPK and prepare the slaughter, man. For the iniquity of their fathers, man. That's what we need to do. Their fathers done some atrocities to us, and the Lord ain't forgot
Right.
about it. The Lord didn't say it ain't in the past. The Lord didn't say it ain't in the past. The Lord said prepare slaughter for their children, for the iniquity of their fathers, man. And they're always trying to wipe us out. Like with everything that they do, they're always trying to wipe out black people, man. All the time. Like the enslavers tried to kill us off, tried to get rid of us. Like every day they're trying to kill us, man. You're not gonna get rid of us. Why? Because the Lord wants us here, man. You ain't getting rid of us, man. And your judgment is coming. They think to stop their judgment coming, let's just kill every black person. Listen, man. The more you oppress us, the more we multiply, man. That's in the Bible. Give me Exodus chapter 1 and verse 12.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Listen, man. The more they afflicted us, the more we multiplied, man. Let me get you. Let me get you that from. Let me get you that same thing from history, man. It's lucky you got that. That charger is that one. Just pass me the thing. Yeah. Read that. Read that again.
Khan, another one, Khan. The book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
And like you would think, the more they afflicted us, you'd think that would, stop us from growing as a nation. You'd think, that would stop us from having children and multiplying. But the more they afflicted us, the more we grow, man. Like the more they try and get rid of us, the Lord makes sure the more of us He puts here, man. The more they think, okay, we're gonna get rid of them and wipe them out, the more of us the Lord puts here.
Right.
Like you would think, if this was any other nation,
That's right.
any other nation would have been wiped out by now.
That's
Any other nation would have ceased to exist by now.
That's
Based
right.
on all the hard labor, and the Lord's made
Right.
us so strong that no matter what we're going through, we're still fruitful and multiplying, man.
that's right.
Though we're in slavery, we're still multiplying and having children.
Right.
Though we're oppressed, we're still multiplying and having children. Though we're broke, though we're poor, though we're in the ghetto in hell, we still multiplying and having children, man.
Right.
And the Lord has it that way. Meanwhile, this white man's trying to get rid of us. The Lord's got other plans, man. The Lord has a greater plan for us. The Lord's saying, they're trying to get rid of you. I'm going to let you multiply and put more of you here, man.
That's right.
This man's trying to get rid of us because he hates us. If he had it his way, we would have been exterminated by now.
Right.
But the Lord wants us here, man. Read that for me one more time, Ariel.
Khan, another one, Khan. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Says the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And we're a nation which multiplies and grows. Give me that from the history book, Quasar.
The English soon got involved in the trade.
So now England got involved in the trade. Go ahead.
The terrible John Hawkins set the trend in 1562, getting rich by selling 300 Africans in Hispaniola.
So now it says he sold 300 Africans in Hispaniola. We know that's the Israelites. Obviously, the white man's ignorant to history and everything, so he will call you African. And the proof of that is when we first came to England, white people was asking us where we're from. We was like Jamaica, and they were saying, what part of Africa is that? So they're ignorant. They think every black person's from Africa. That's in history that white people was asking Jamaicans what part of Africa is that. White people have told them they don't understand that Jamaica's not in Africa. But they told them they were asking what part of Africa is that. So this is why a lot of these books say African, because white people think every black country is Africa, in Africa. They thought Jamaica was in Africa because they've never read a book in their life. They've never worked in their life. They've never done nothing in their life, so they think Jamaica is in Africa, which is one of the dumbest statements you could ever make. Jamaica is in Africa. It's the dumbest thing you could ever make. Read on.
But the French and the Portuguese were already quite active.
But the French and the Portuguese were active in slavery, man. Imagine this. You think just the British man had slaves. The French had slaves. The Portuguese had slaves. The Dutch had slaves. And all of these is Edomite nations, man.
Yes.
We ran from one right into the next.
That's right.
We run from one thinking we're going to get safety, and we run right into the next one. They all devils, man. You're running from one devil to a next devil. The only difference is the language and the accent. Language and the accent, that's the only difference. Read on.
By 1564, while the English were slow to imitate them.
So now the English, they didn't start slavery in the beginning. They just was sitting back because they didn't know if there was money in it. And then the Dutch and them started it before them. And then once the British seen that there was money in it, what did the British do? Jumped and got involved in the slave trade. They got involved in it late. Now, what did the Spanish do? They had slaves in Jamaica. And then what did the British do? Realize, you know what? That kind of makes sense. So they sent about what? 600 or 700 men on foot to the land to go war with the Spanish, to go take over the land. Go ahead.
James I granted an exclusive chart to a few Londoner merchants in 1618.
Go ahead.
But the Royal African Company did not see the light.
So now, slavery was a business. Don't think it was just a random African man capturing slaves and passing you over. There was a thing called the Royal African Federation or the Royal African Company, which was a business. So two businesses would meet. They'd have the Royal African Company that would round up the slaves, sell them to Europeans. Now, what the pirates would do is kidnap slaves and sell them on the black market. You see, like now how you got a car which comes from the dealership, and then you can buy a car with fake plates on it. The pirates would get a man, no papers, sell him for cheap. Whereas a proper slave would come with papers. There'd be papers like this man's worth this, blah, 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 and all of those kind of things. So it was a proper business. It was a business. It wasn't just a random white man selling slaves. It was a businessman. Businessmen selling slaves. Read on.
Did not see the light before 1672.
Go ahead.
It enjoyed exclusivity until 1688. The following year, the English and the Spaniards agreed upon commercial terms.
They agreed on commercial terms, and everyone agrees on commercial terms when it comes to dealing with us. Go ahead.
Which turned the former into the most active slave traders in the world.
Which turned the what?
Which turned the former into the most active slave traders in the world.
The British became the most active slave traders in the world, man. Even though they jumped in slavery late, they became the most active slave traders in the world. Go ahead.
Of course, many of these slaves were Spaniards.
Many of these what?
No, Slovakia.
Oh,
many of these slaves.
I was going to say them Spaniards ain't damn slaves. I was going to say you're in that. I was going to throw the whole book away. I was going to throw the whole book away. Go ahead.
Many of these slaves were sent to Jamaica.
Many of these what?
Many of these slaves were sent to Jamaica.
Many of these slaves were sent to Jamaica. Go ahead.
In 1658, 3 years after the island was taken over from the Spaniards.
So now, I'll call you back. I'm in class.
So like you say, oh no. So 3 years after the island was taken over from the Spanish, they sent all the slaves to Jamaica. At that time, you had Taino slaves and all of them in there, and a few other slaves. Go ahead.
There were
fled
400
to the mountains. Go ahead.
There were 400 slaves and 4,000 colonies.
There were what?
There were 400 slaves and 4,000 colonists in Jamaica.
So now there was 400 slaves. What did they say? 400.
Yeah, and 4,000 colonists in Jamaica.
All right. So there's 400 slaves and 4,000 colonizers in Jamaica, meaning they had 4,000 colonizers and 400 slaves. At this time, there's only 400 slaves in Jamaica. Read on.
By 1775.
By 1775, read.
There were 200,000 slaves.
There were what?
200,000 slaves.
From 400 slaves, we became 200,000 slaves, man. Read right. Hold that, but read that. Read that again, Ariella.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
And the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. We was there 400 slaves strong. and then we became 200,000, man. The more the British afflicted us, the more we grew, man. The more the Egyptians afflicted us, the more we grew, man. And they
That's
keep
right.
afflicting us, and the more we're gonna grow, man. These devils think
Right.
they're gonna get rid of us. Nah, man. The more you afflict us, the more we're gonna grow, man.
Right.
The more you try to get rid of us, the more we're gonna grow. Read that part again, Potazar.
3 years after the island was taken over from the Spaniards, there were 400 slaves
So now there was 400 slaves at that stage. Go ahead.
and 4,000 colonists
And 4,000 colonizers. So there's more colonizers than slaves at that time. Go ahead.
in Jamaica.
That's
But-
in Jamaica. Go ahead.
By 1775, there were 200,000.
By 1775, there was 200,000, man. From 400, we done multiplied like the Lord said, man. In Exodus, it said the more they afflicted them, the more they grew. And you devils keep afflicting us, and it's the more we're gonna grow, man.
Right.
And we're gonna have more
That's
brothers
right.
in the street saying, "Damn the white man," because it's the devil the Bible speaks of, man.
That's
The
right.
more you afflict
That's
us, the more
right.
we're gonna grow. The more you afflict us, the more we're gonna call you the devil. The more you afflict us, the more black people is gonna wake up and realize they need to separate from this man.
Right.
So just keep afflicting us, man, because it's the more we're gonna grow. They think them
That's
afflicting
right.
us is gonna stop our growth. Mm-mm. The Lord's got other plans, man. We're gonna grow and keep on growing, man. Read on.
There were 200,000 slaves and 8,000 colonists.
There were 200,000 slaves and 8,000 colonizers, man. They only what? Doubled. They only doubled. We quadrupled, man. Imagine this: there's 200,000 slaves and 8,000 colonizers. If only we knew our power, man. If only we knew our power. There's 200,000 of us and 8,000 of them. Let me get my calculator and divide that. How much it is to hold on.
40,000 to 1 out of 1.
See, 200 divided by let me see. So it says what? 250. Hold on, let me do it. Check it again. How much slaves was there? 200,000.
Yeah.
200,000 divided by 8,000. Hold on. What the hell is in 25? That don't make no sense.
Yeah, 25 to 1.
So listen, there's 25 to 1. Imagine this. There's only 8,000 of them, and there's 200,000 of us. If only we knew our strength, man.
Right.
If only we knew who we was. If only we knew what we're capable of. It was 25 to 1, and we was afraid of them. Imagine if only we knew
Right.
our strength and our power, man. We could have turned that shit all the way around, man.
That's right.
We could have turned that shit around. But obviously, it was a punishment from God while we was in slavery, so obviously it wouldn't have been turned around.
Right.
But I read on.
This demographical reversal was due to the development of agriculture, which had transformed sugar canes into gold.
And listen, man, sugarcane was transformed into gold, man. That's how much money they was making. Like sugarcane was turning into gold. That's how much money they was making, man. They was making millions on top of millions on top of millions. And with that, that brings us to the end of the class. Clap it up. We're gonna do the security announcements, and we out of here.
This is the ISUPK security announcement. Where the ISUPK started off 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Roofing new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21, Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 to 10, means 10th in Hebrew, Maya Sha'ara, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for the priest, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations. Passover.
April 15th.
April 15th.
In Cocoa Beach, Florida. Cocoa Beach, Florida. We outside, man. Get me, people love that saying we outside. Right. We outside in about what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, right.
listen, man. In about 2 weeks, we're gonna be outside. Go ahead.
Enjoying that hot weather, man.
That's what I'm saying. Real summer. We're gonna be in Cocoa Beach with the sunscreen. All the sunscreen and all them things. Go ahead.
All Akim and Ak offered to check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pants, headband, and scarf. To that, say Majum. I Majum Shabbat. Majum Barak. Yahweh Bashim Yah Shai Brakatah.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Barakafam.
Yajimata. Class dismissed.
Yo, Bishim, yo, Shabrakatah.
Hey, Ariella, for water for filling in today as well. I appreciate it. All right, then Shalom Israel will be here tomorrow. We Captain Parasha 7.
Shalom, Lord and Christ.
Shalom Yahshua Barakafam.
Yo, Bashim, yo, Shabrakatah.